So once again, welcome to our virtual tour today covering WhereScape's integration with Microsoft Fabric. My name is Brad Cloth. I'm one of our solutions architects from North America. I'll be your host today. Joining me is Andika Pasquale, who is one of our solution architects from the Europe side of things. He'll be doing our demo for us and handling all the technical side of everything. So with that, we can get going. I've got a few slides here that we'll get through, and then we'll get to the fun stuff with the actual demo. So a little background about WhereScape. We've been around over 20 years now. We started out, it was two data warehouse consultants in New Zealand who were working. They got a real big job from a very large bank to build out a warehouse. They needed something to help them finish the job more quickly. So they built this little tool that they used. And then when they delivered so fast, the bank said, "What'd you use to build this?" And they showed them. The bank said, "Can we buy it?" And then those data warehouse consultants became software engineers. And so that's how the product was born. We have over 1,200 customers across all verticals, across the globe, and across all sizes, from little mom and pop 1 or 2 person IT groups all the way up through companies like Disney, Whole Foods, Nike, those sizes. So large or small, no matter what your industry is, WhereScape can definitely help you out. And then what we're bringing to the table through our automation is just faster delivery of your data warehouse. So we advertise 8x developer output, but really that's kind of the baseline. The stronger you are as a data warehouse developer before you get the tools, the more of an output you're going to have. So we've seen 10x, 12x as well. So what does warehouse automation bring into the table? First of all, like I mentioned, we are going to be delivering your warehouse faster. We take out all the grunt work, the tedious tasks that go along with building your warehouse, so you don't have to worry about those. Things like setting up with effective data encoding for type 2 dimension, things like that. We're going to do automatically, so you can just focus on getting your data mapped correctly and validating your data. You're going to have less risk and less cost. There's going to be less refactoring because all your code is going to work the first time. You don't have to worry about any syntax errors or anything like that. So there's not going to be as much back and forth just trying to get that code to work. Everything's going to be consistent. We enforce naming standards, we enforce best practices, but you can customize those to your company's standards and practices. But that way, so everyone's following the same thing, everyone's naming things the same way, and you don't have to constantly check up on things, make sure people are doing things the way they're supposed to. We also help you avoid vendor lock as far as your database goes. I mean, today's presentation is all about, us, our new Fabric offering, which obviously wasn't around a year ago. And so, maybe you were on something a year ago, now that Fabric's out, you want to switch over. If you've been building out WhereScape, we make it very easy to port from one to another. We store everything as metadata, database agnostic in the background. So all you have to do is point WhereScape to whatever database you want to build out in, click the button, and we'll generate all the code for you. And then at the end of it all, we do automatically document your entire warehouse. So you don't have to worry about trying to carve out time for that. You don't have to worry about your documentation being out of date as soon as you create it, because you can just recreate it at the click of a button here with WhereScape. So that's a really nice feature too, saves a lot of time and actually gets your users documentation that they can use. So to today's presentation, we'll be showing WhereScape Red, our build tool, and how it integrates with the new Microsoft Fabric offering. We're in the initial stages of building out our integration with that. We've got some good stuff to show you today. And then, of course, we have future plans for what we're going to do. So you can see these over on the right here. We'll be, we're definitely working with OneLake as far as getting data just into OneLake or using OneLake as a source into your warehouse. We're going to be integrating WhereScape to be able to generate data factory pipelines for you, rather than just straight SQL code to move your data around. Of course, working with loading data both into Synapse and into the lakehouse section of Fabric. Our WhereScape 3D modeling tool will be integrated with Purview to be able to integrate back and forth, get the information from that for governance and things like that. And then we'll also be introducing Git integration. So these are all planned for 2025, but of course, some things could get done sooner and fall back into 2024. So, we'll definitely keep everyone posted on all of that. And so, yeah, that's the background on WhereScape. We're ready to get into the fun part. Real quick before I turn it over to Indika, you'll see at the bottom of your screen, there's a little Q&A button there. So any questions that you have during the demo, please just type them in there, and I'll either type out an answer if I have it, or we'll have some time at the end of the presentation to go through the questions, have Indika answer them. And I see we have one already about the recording. So this is being recorded, and I believe that we send out the recording at the end. So you should get access to that, yes. All right. And I see a raised hand. I don't know if you can type your question into the Q&A or hit me up on the chat. We can talk about that because I do want to stop my sharing now and turn this over to Indika for the demo.
Thanks, Brad. Can you let me know when you can see my screen?
Yep, I can see it.
Hopefully hear me as well. Yeah, okay, so I will start. I will do a very short demo. And as Brad said, you can add your questions on the Q&A chat and we will answer them at the end. We're going to do a very short demo on how to make a data vault. In this case, it's on Microsoft Fabric. I'll talk a little bit at the beginning about our two products. What you're seeing on the screen is WhereScape Red, which is our builder product, which means that you will use this product to build the physical tables. Think about things like generating a DDL or a DML to load the data. Things like managing indexes, transformations, all those things you would expect to do on your day-to-day operations of your warehouse. Okay, our other tool is WhereScape 3D, which is this tool here. It's our modeling tool, which means you will create models and gather the metadata from your sources. Okay, we will create a small data vault in 3D and we will deploy it into Red. Okay, this process will be first defining our data sources. Okay, this can be something like an ODBC or a JDBC. Today it will be Northwind, but it could be any other relational source or things like APIs or maybe an S3 bucket, those kind of things. Then we will see how we can model a data vault, okay, based on the 2.0 standard, for those of you that are familiar with data vault, but it could also be something like an ODS or a 3NF or in-mon model as well. Okay, then we will generate our loading layer and our staging layer. Okay, our load layers will be a one-to-one copy of our sources, and our staging layer is where we will calculate our hashes, in this case for the data vault. Okay, then we will see how we can deploy this into Red and how all those tables will be created on Microsoft Fabric Warehouse. And then if you have other questions or if we have a little bit more time, we will see how a star schema would look on top of that data vault. Okay. Over this process, we will see how we can create the documentation and how our scheduler works. Okay, I'm going to switch directly into WhereScape 3D and start. Okay, so first we have to define our connection. Okay, our connection in this case is Northwind, as I said before. Okay, but it could be any relational source or things like anything that has an ODBC, a JDBC, APIs, ADLS, okay, anything like that will do. Okay, first I'm going to discover my connection. I'm going to create a new version, and to do that, I'm going to give it today's date. And now I can do things like select the schemas. I'm going to just leave DVO. And I can also set, for example, filters. Okay, based on names, I can include or exclude names, and I can select table types. I'm going to deselect views and system tables. I'm going to click on next, and this will set as a series of queries on the system tables. Okay. I'm also going to profile it, but I'm going to hide it for now. I will talk about the profiling a little bit afterwards. I'm going to display. And now I can see the structure of my source. Okay. If I open one of my tables, I can see my attributes okay, including attribute types. If there's things like transformations, indexes, okay, all these things will be discovered by the discovery method. The discovery method is open to the user like any other query in both 3D and red, so you always know which queries you're running against your sources, okay? The other thing that we run was a profiling, and I will show you the profiling result. Okay, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. And that's in table of my customers table. I can see my node count, and I can see that my region is 2/3 empty, and that my facts is 25% or almost a quarter empty. Okay, this can help us tell our developers that we have a quality issue, or simply understand which of our attributes may not be interesting to use in something like a dimension, for example. The last thing that I want to show you about our source is how we can keep track of changes in our sources. So I'm going to click on compare models, and I am going to compare the one that we have just discovered with today's date with one previously that says modified, which has obviously been modified for the demo. And now we can see what changes have happened. In this case, in our customers table, we have added office phone and email, and we have deleted phone and fax. Okay, that's how this is highlighted with that red and green colors. Okay, on the right-hand side, you can see that these two tables were also not, or these three tables, sorry, were also not available before, or they have been deleted in this case. The next step is we are going to define something we call a data vault design. Okay, I'm going to create a new version. Again, I'm going to use today's date, and I'm going to display this. Okay, this is an empty canvas, and to generate a data vault, if you're familiar with the data vault training or with the book, okay, in the book, it is described that we have to flag our attributes. Okay, and we are going to do that same exercise, but we are going to do it on this empty canvas. Okay, I'm going to take again my customers table. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so everybody can see it. And I'm going to flag those attributes one by one, let's say. So in this case, my customer ID is my primary key, and I will make it also my business key. Okay, this is not always the case, and this is the reason why we need to have a user or a developer model this and flag these attributes. Next, I'm going to flag these three attributes for a satellite medium volatility. And let's say the rest, which are my address and my address details, to a satellite low volatility. If I click on apply and then OK, this window is closed. And now you can see these colors, and they signify that those attributes have been flagged. Okay, based on this, I would expect to create a hub and two satellites. Okay, once I'm happy with what I have modeled, I can go to my data vault design and click on this wizard, which will generate a data vault based on the metadata and on my input. Okay, I'm going to click on create. I go through a series of windows that have things like naming conventions, prefixes, suffixes, and so on. I will leave everything as default. And this will run a series of rules we call model conversion rules that have, let's say, changed the metadata and my input into a small data vault model. Okay, in this case, I have a hub with my business key and my technical attributes, okay, to have a 2.0 compliant data vault, and my two satellites. One is the medium rate of change, and one is the low rate of change. That's what those suffixes mean. And I have the attributes that I have flagged for each one of these satellites, and the technical columns that will help us keep history. As you know, satellites are where we keep history on our data vault. Okay. Once I'm happy with my data vault, I can click on create load and stage, and this will run another wizard that will create those intermediate stages. for our data vault. Okay, in this case, it has created a load and a stage. The load will be sourced from our source. The stage will be sourced from our load. And our hub, for example, will be sourced from our stage. Okay, which calculates our hashes as well. Okay, this is the general process which we model data vault. Okay, what I'm going to do is from this point on, I'm going to reference or use, let's say, a more complete data vault, which is this previous model. Okay, it is based on the same source, and we actually have the same modeling we were actually using here. We only have more tables, but they're only hubs, links, and satellites. Okay, it only has a few more tables, but for the sake of time, we will not be modeling the whole data vault today. Okay, once I'm happy with my model here, we can click on prepare to read, and on this last read export is where we will indicate to 3D which target we will be using on. Okay, up to this point, we have not talked about which target it is. It could be any of the supported targets, things like Snowflake, Oracle, or any of the supported targets. Only on this last step, we will indicate which is the target. And based on that, things like data types will be changed and transformations will be added where necessary. Okay, after that last step, we click on export to read, and we will generate an XML file that will contain all the metadata that defines our model. Okay, if you remember at the beginning of the demo, we discussed that this is only our modeling tool, so no physical tables will be created here. Okay, this XML file will be the input for read, and read will generate and run things like all the DDLs and all the DMLs. Okay, so I'm going to jump now directly into read. Okay, I am going to show you how that model looks like once we deploy it. Okay, so in this case, we are using this data vault model, okay, with the entities that we were discussing before. Okay, once we deploy the model here, based on templates, we will create the DDL. Okay, and the DML. Okay, which I'm going to show you now. I'm going to click on yes here. Okay, this DML is based on templates, and in this case, it's a Python script that has the SQL embedded in it. In this case, it's for Microsoft Fabric Warehouse, but it could be for any of the supported targets. Okay, the user interface is exactly the same. We would only change the templates. Okay, once we have deployed the tables, we can create them, for example, with a create, if they are not created on deployment. And this will run an ODBC and SQL command via the ODBC. Okay, this will create our tables on our warehouse. Okay, I'm going to click on discard changes here. And when the interface loads, let me see which one loads faster. Okay, and this will create, in this case, we were creating one of the first load tables, which was our load categories table. Let me see if this has finished. No. Probably this is now not built. Let me see if we can get to create it again. Okay, I will go back to maybe another one of the tables. This was busy now. Yeah. Start with another one. Okay, and the tables that we create inside Red will come up here on our Let's see if I can get one of them to show. Okay. On our Fabric warehouse here, okay? We can run them from the interface, and we can see the results on the BI portal, okay? For the stage tables, it's a similar idea. Okay, in this case, it's a data stage, and this will run this SQL code on our stage tables. Okay, it's the same idea as with other platforms. However, we cover this new target, which is Microsoft Fabric Warehouse. Okay, for our hubs and links and satellites, we just use a different template if you're familiar with it as well. Okay, but the idea is exactly the same. Okay, if we want to create a job, we can select our project, and this will add all the objects and all the lineage. Okay, there's other options here like the maximum threads, which will control how many tables we can run at once, and we can add success and failure commands, things like team messages or Slack if that's what you're using, or maybe an email, something like that. We're gonna click on OK, and now you can see all the objects with the order in terms of the lineage. Okay, this will be added to our scheduler. Our scheduler is an Azkaban scheduler that I'm going to show you here. And this Azkaban scheduler was developed by LinkedIn, and it comes with the product, so you can install it once you install Red. And here you can see your jobs, and you can actually manage your jobs as well. So you can run them from the interface, or you can run them also from this web interface as well. Okay. Lastly, I would like to show you the documentation, which is this other tab that I was opening now. Okay, we can create this documentation from Red, and this process will scrap all the metadata from our models. Okay, and they will add them to this HTML document. Okay, I'm going to show you the technical one that has a little bit more information, and this has, for example, for our data vault, all the information of our table. Okay. This includes things like entity names, attribute types, if there's comments, business rules, business definitions, lineage, extended properties as well. Everything is included on this documentation. You can create it, let's say, every week and share this with technical and non-technical colleagues or whoever you have to share this information with, without sharing access to the warehouse itself. Okay. I think we had a series of questions already. I think Brad answered some of them, but there are, I think, 2 or 3 more that have not been answered. One says, maybe I can put this in the middle. Do you have a working version of Azure Fabric Delta Lakehouse using Python notebooks for ELT medallion architecture? Currently, we are working with the SQL interface on the warehouse. Okay, so we are not currently using Python notebooks, though it is possible to modify the templates to actually do that. I'm not sure if there's plans on the roadmap to actually make Python notebooks, but for the warehousing side, we're currently using SQL commands. Can 3D source from other Fabric tables? Yes, via the ODBC, exactly the same as from other relational sources. Okay. The same question was, the demo showed sourcing from Northwind SQL server source, but once we are using Fabric more, I'm assuming we use Fabric as both source and target. Yes, it's exactly the same. You can connect to the Fabric warehouse via an ODBC connection, and that is what you were seeing on our target here. So on our target connection, you can see here the Fabric warehouse. This is simply an ODBC connection. with a SQL Server driver, with a Microsoft driver. And here you have the Lakehouse that has a SQL endpoint. And this one, as you may know already, it's a read-only ODBC connection. But both are ODBC connections, and both can be browsed or discovered from 3D. The last one is, does WhereScape create only data vault models? No, we have, let's say, two, I'm going to say general demos. One is the data vault, okay? And the other one is the ODS, okay? We also do one that is with the star schema or a virtualized star schema as well. We can generate all sorts of tables, but usually if I go back to the diagram, usually it's or a data vault or a 3NF or an ODS or a data store as a foundation, okay? And then on top of that, we usually do a star schema so we can connect our reporting tools to that layer, okay? Another question, you mentioned in the future WhereScape will be able to create ADF pipelines. Would this be in place of SQL that you are currently using for loading processing? Yes. We already have templates that generate ADF pipelines, which are copy command or copy ADF objects, okay? We had them for Red 9, and they are going to be ported into Red 10. This is the Red 10 version. And yes, they will replace the load templates that you have seen, which was the first template that we looked at before looking at the stage. So yes, they will replace the SQL commands. Okay, and the last question that we have for now is the CDC built right into the pipelines that were built by WhereScape? Yes, that depends on how you actually want to use it. Usually we use things like dates if it's not provided by the source, but shortly anything that is supported by the pipeline can be added into the template. So it depends on if your source provides some sort of CDC attribute, or if you want to create a date or another sort of parameter or something like that. Another question says, is the end user layer in your picture also known as the business vault? It can be, but not necessarily. Usually the business vault are a series of or views or pits and bridges. And usually to connect things on top of that, like Power BI or Tableau, you need to have a virtualized star schema on top. So in this case, I have my business vault on top of my robot, and then I have a virtualized star schema, which I believe is referencing, yeah, it is referencing my business vault. Okay, so I have a fact table and 2-dimension tables, and you can see that my dimension is actually joining my hub customer and my satellite customers to have, let's say, my dimension customer. Okay, so yes, I do need a star schema on top of my business vault in order to connect Tableau or Power BI on that reporting layer. Another question, do you support Delta files format for output in Lakehouse? Yes, so basically all the tables that you see here, even though the DDL doesn't specify it, all these tables underneath are a Delta file. Okay, so if I go back to my interface on Power BI and I go to one of my load tables, I think we're looking at this one, load. Okay, and we see properties. Okay, can I make this bigger? No. Yeah, probably. Yeah, so the format is Delta, and in these locations, you can actually see the files themselves, which, as you probably already know, it's a Parquet file with a log, the Delta log, and that's, let's say, the Delta format. So all these tables will be by default Delta tables, okay? Is there a trial version for these new versions? Yes, I believe if you contact us, we can arrange a trial version for you, or maybe Brad also answered now. Do we have any more open questions? We're a little bit over time, but we're happy to answer them. Yeah. Does the scheduler
Yeah.
also use an ODBC against the Fabric data warehouse? Yes. Does it authorize using intra ID? That depends on what the ODBC driver allows for you to do. If the ODBC driver supports it, yes. Usually people use or a service principal or things like an Active Directory. All those things are supported by the Microsoft ODBC driver, and the scheduler has to use that same authentication, or it can use a different authentication as long as you are consistent with what the development environment said before, let's say. So it's up to you what kind of authentication you want to use. Yeah. Okay, I think there's no more open questions for now. If you have any other questions or you would like to see a more extended demo or trial a particular case, you can always send us an email and we will arrange that for you.
Yeah, so you can reach out to more info at wherescape.com. Also, if you go to our website, there is a book a demo button at the top of every page. So you can click that to set up a demo, more in-depth demo, longer demo, to go through everything we just went through very quickly. One thing I wanted to say about the recording. So we do not send it out automatically, but if you reach out to marketing at wherescape.com or just use the contact us link on our website, then you can request a copy and we will send that out to you. So with that, I want to say thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Indica, for that demo. And everyone have a wonderful rest of your Thursday. Thank you.